When Victoria Sterling Whitmore burned my cabin to ashes, she thought she'd crushed a powerless neighbor. She didn't know I was a federal judge with 18 years of experience dismantling criminal empires like hers. This is the story of how her own fire sparked her downfall and transformed a community.
I took careful note of the situation unfolding in Victoria's garage. Eleanor's telescope gave me a clear view of their gathering, and the discussion appeared to be strategic, with maps and documents spread before them. Eleanor confirmed that she'd seen similar meetings on various occasions, always involving the same core group. It seemed they were planning their moves with precision, each action intended to tighten the grip of control the HOA had over the neighborhood. After quietly thanking Eleanor for her help and reminding her to stay discreet, I retreated back to my own yard, my mind racing with the implications. Overnight, everything had shifted. What had been a series of tyrannical HOA maneuvers now formed a clear trajectory toward criminal collusion and possible racketeering. The next few weeks required a delicate balance of patience and action. I carefully reviewed Eleanor's notes and recordings, reconciling them with my documentation. Evidence backed my suspicions. Victoria and her allies were perpetrating a coordinated effort to manipulate regulations for their benefit, ensuring any dissent was quickly quashed. But I needed a clear line to federal jurisdiction. Every day, I continued my facade as the quiet neighbor. I attended HOA meetings, exchanged pleasantries with Victoria, and kept my interactions with other residents pleasant yet minimal. My days were spent combing through every piece of evidence, contacting trusted federal colleagues to consult on the legal implications, all while keeping the unofficial investigation contained. The final piece fell into place when the insurance investigator came through and confirmed arson without question. He had no stake in the local conspiracies and operated with federal oversight, making his report a linchpin in escalating the matter to a federal investigation. A week before the courtroom scene unfolded, I managed a covert meeting with a federal marshal who owed me a favor. We organized a task force, members briefed on the intricacies of local corruption and the HOA's intricate web. What started as an undercover HOA probe now was sanctioned as a full-blown federal investigation. The stage was set, thanks to documentation from Eleanor, audio evidence from our shared surveillance, and detailed timelines. The case against Victoria and her co-conspirators was bulletproof. The public face of Pine Ridge Estates was about to crumble under legal scrutiny. Every seemingly disconnected action now formed a pattern linking back to Victoria herself, supported by her brother's influence and the county inspector's manipulated reports. Thus, as Victoria Sterling Whitmore confidently strode into court, her heels striking the marble floors, she still wore that air of invincibility, unaware that the world she meticulously shaped was on the brink of collapse. When she finally realized her perfunctory battle against a supposed recluse had unraveled a vast conspiracy, her reign of local tyranny dissolved like smoke on a cold Minnesota morning. The narrative content provided is clearly a story. It unfolds as a suspense drama, detailing the criminal activities of Victoria Sterling Whitmore and her associates, as well as the efforts by the protagonist and federal agents to unravel and bring down her criminal network. The focus is on escalating tensions, elaborate criminal schemes, and a detailed investigation leading to the potential downfall of the main antagonist. In this story, Eleanor and her grandson Marcus uncover a large conspiracy through careful surveillance and documentation. With the assistance of FBI agent Maria Santos, they build a strong case against Victoria and her corrupt associates, including HOA members and public officials. The conspiracy involves illegal property acquisition schemes using arson and intimidation, revealing a criminal enterprise extending across multiple states. As the investigation gains momentum, Victoria's paranoia heightens, ultimately leading to an emergency HOA meeting with nefarious intentions. This climax sets the stage for an impending legal showdown and the unraveling of Victoria's corporate empire. The narrative is well structured with a gripping plot that includes twists and detailed character development. The characters, particularly Victoria, are depicted with complex motivations and vividly illustrated within their roles, contributing to the suspense and engagement of the story. Her use of my actual title was the first public acknowledgement that she knew my profession, a slip that revealed how much research she had conducted after the arson. The fabricated eminent domain clause was a masterpiece of legal-sounding nonsense. Victoria claimed that HOA Charter Section 15.7 authorized emergency property acquisition for community safety purposes, referencing a document that had never existed. She had prepared official-looking legal papers complete with county seal forgeries and fake attorney signatures. The presentation included testimony from structural engineers and fire safety experts who were HOA board members reading scripts that Victoria had written. The entire performance was designed to create legal legitimacy for what amounted to property theft. While Victoria was conducting her theatrical presentation, FBI agents were executing 7 simultaneous raids across Pine Ridge and the surrounding county. The coordination was perfect. As Victoria clicked through her slides about community safety, federal agents were seizing evidence from her house, Rick Morrison's fire station office, Daniel Chase's county building department, and 4 shell company addresses connected to Pine Ridge Development, LLC. The timing ensured that no one in the conspiracy network could warn the others or attempt to destroy evidence. The search of Victoria's basement revealed the true scope of her criminal enterprise. FBI agents discovered what could only be described as a war room, with detailed maps of the entire Pine Ridge development covering one wall. Each residence was marked with color-coded pins indicating the status of acquisition efforts: green for compliant residents, yellow for pressure campaign in progress, and red for priority targets. 23 resident files contained detailed dossiers with financial information, family vulnerabilities, and strategic pressure points that could be exploited to force property sales. The financial records found in Victoria's hidden safe told the story of a sophisticated money laundering operation. Handwritten ledgers documented $340,000 in cash transactions over the past 3 years, with detailed payment schedules to county officials, fire department personnel, and building inspectors. More damaging were Victoria's diary entries, which revealed her psychological motivation for the criminal scheme. Her obsession with control traced back to the Wisconsin casino development failure, where she had lost $2.8 million due to regulatory problems she couldn't influence. The Pine Ridge operation was her attempt to create a world where she controlled every variable that could affect her financial success. The contracts hidden in Victoria's basement safe revealed connections to a multi-state organized crime syndicate specializing in illegal casino development. The documents showed that Pine Ridge Estates was intended to be the site of an underground gambling operation, with the HOA serving as a front organization for property acquisition and money laundering. Victoria's role was to clear the neighborhood of resistant homeowners, creating a controlled environment where criminal activities could operate without interference from law enforcement or regulatory oversight. Rick Morrison's arrest provided the most dramatic moment of the evening. As Victoria was concluding her eminent domain presentation, Rick received an urgent phone call that sent him rushing from the meeting toward his car. FBI agents were waiting in the community center parking lot, and they arrested him as he attempted to flee with $85,000 in cash and a passport bearing the name Richard Miller. His escape kit included detailed driving directions to 3 Canadian border crossings and contact information for criminal associates in Toronto. The arrest was witnessed by dozens of HOA meeting attendees, destroying any remaining credibility for Victoria's safety presentation. The discovery of evidence destruction attempts confirmed that Victoria's network was aware of the federal investigation. Rick Morrison had been in the process of burning fire department records when FBI agents arrived at the station. Daniel Chase had attempted to delete computer files containing inspection reports and bribery documentation, though federal forensic specialists were able to recover most of the deleted data. Margaret Fellows was found shredding HOA financial records in her home office, while David Kim had removed hard drives from his personal computer and attempted to dispose of them in a nearby lake. Victoria's reaction to the news of the raids was carefully controlled, but I could see the calculation happening behind her eyes. She completed her presentation as if nothing had happened, even as text messages began circulating among meeting attendees about FBI activity throughout the neighborhood. When Eleanor Vasquez stood up to ask about Rick Morrison's sudden departure, Victoria maintained her composure and suggested that emergency responders often had to leave social events for urgent calls. Her ability to continue the performance under pressure demonstrated the professional criminal mindset that had made her enterprise so successful. The first Pine Ridge Estates HOA meeting under new leadership took place 6 weeks after Victoria's arrest, in the same community center where she had delivered her final desperate presentation. The atmosphere was completely different. Gone was the oppressive tension that had characterized Victoria's reign, replaced by genuine enthusiasm and collaborative energy. Eleanor Vasquez, now serving as interim president, opened the meeting by announcing that all of Victoria's arbitrary citations and fines were being permanently voided. The collective sigh of relief from 43 homeowners was audible throughout the room. The transformation began with practical changes that addressed the most obvious problems created by Victoria's authoritarian rule. The new board voted unanimously to reduce the community bylaws from 60 pages to 12, eliminating arbitrary restrictions that had served no purpose beyond generating citation revenue. Grass height requirements were adjusted to reasonable standards that reflected normal lawn maintenance rather than obsessive perfectionism. The fune violations and visual pollution categories were eliminated, along with the wildlife disturbance citations that had targeted solar panels. Eleanor's leadership style was the complete opposite of Victoria's approach. Rather than imposing decisions from above, she facilitated community discussions about shared priorities and collaborative solutions. The first major decision involved Victoria's confiscated house, which had been seized by the federal government as part of the asset forfeiture process. The community voted to purchase the property from the government and convert it into a community garden and children's playground, symbolically transforming the center of neighborhood tyranny into a space for growth and joy. The new cabin construction became a community project that embodied Pine Ridge's commitment to environmental sustainability and mutual support. The insurance settlement, combined with federal victim compensation funds, provided $280,000 for rebuilding. But the real value came from neighbor volunteers who contributed skills and labor. Marcus Vasquez, Eleanor's grandson, who had helped hack Victoria's smart home system, designed a state-of-the-art solar power array that would make the cabin completely energy independent. 3 neighbors with construction backgrounds donated weekend labor, while others provided meals and materials. The new cabin incorporated lessons learned from Victoria's arson attack. The structure featured fire-resistant materials, multiple escape routes, and a comprehensive sprinkler system connected to a rainwater collection reservoir. More importantly, it served as a demonstration project for sustainable living techniques that other residents could adapt for their properties. The solar panels that Victoria had cited as wildlife violations now powered educational workshops about renewable energy and environmental conservation. The ripple effects from Victoria's prosecution extended far beyond Pine Ridge Estates. The Department of Justice used our case as a template for federal prosecution of corrupt homeowners associations across 12 states, resulting in 47 additional indictments within 8 months. The legal precedent established by treating HOA corruption as an environmental crime under federal jurisdiction opened new avenues for prosecution that had previously been impossible under state and local laws. Victoria Sterling Whitmore had unwittingly created the framework for dismantling similar criminal enterprises throughout the country. The media attention generated by the case led to unexpected opportunities for education and advocacy. HBO purchased the rights to develop a limited series based on the Pine Ridge story, with the working title The Cabin Judge. The production would film on location in Minnesota, providing economic benefits to the local community while raising national awareness about HOA abuse and corruption. I agreed to serve as a consultant for the series, ensuring that the legal and procedural elements would be accurate and educational for viewers. My book, HOA Hell, A Federal Judge's Guide to Fighting Neighborhood Tyranny, became a bestseller within 3 months of publication, reaching #1 on both the New York Times Legal Affairs list and Amazon's Community Development category. The book provided practical guidance for homeowners facing HOA harassment, including sample legal documents, evidence collection techniques, and strategies for organizing community resistance. More importantly, it connected individual property disputes to broader questions about democratic governance and community self-determination. The congressional testimony that followed represented the culmination of the case's national impact. The House Judiciary Committee invited me to speak about the need for federal oversight of homeowners associations, particularly in cases where local corruption made state and county remedies ineffective. My testimony included specific recommendations for legislation that would establish federal jurisdiction over HOA crimes involving mail fraud, wire fraud, or environmental violations. The proposed Federal Community Association Accountability Act would create standardized oversight mechanisms and mandatory transparency requirements for all HOAs managing more than 50 properties. Victoria's complete downfall provided a satisfying conclusion to her criminal career. The plea agreement that she ultimately accepted included 23 years in federal prison, complete financial restitution to all victims, and permanent disbarment from serving in any HOA or community association role. Rick Morrison received 12 years for his role in the conspiracy, while Daniel Chase was sentenced to 3 years of probation and 2,000 hours of community service, much of which he would perform by helping other communities identify and eliminate corrupt inspection practices. The financial recovery exceeded all expectations. Pine Ridge Development LLC's seized assets were liquidated for $1.8 million, with proceeds distributed among Victoria's victims according to a federal compensation formula. The Casino Development Consortium lost its entire investment in the Pine Ridge project, sending a clear message to organized crime groups that federal authorities would aggressively prosecute community infiltration schemes. The economic deterrent effect was immediate and substantial, with similar operations in other states shutting down preemptively to avoid federal scrutiny.